Have you ever had this moment where you understand English pretty well, you can read emails, you can follow meetings, you can watch videos, but the second you open your mouth, your brain goes blank, and you suddenly feel like you know nothing. And then, right after that, your brain does something even more frustrating. It starts searching for grammar rules. It starts asking, is this present perfect or past simple? Do I need the or a? Is it fewer or less? And while you are busy checking invisible rules in your head, the conversation moves on without you. Someone changes the topic. Somebody laughs. You miss your chance. And you walk away thinking, I need more grammar. I need to memorize more rules. But what if the problem is not that you do not know enough grammar? What if the problem is that you are trying to speak like you are taking a test? Because real English, the English people actually use at work, at dinner, on the street, in a quick phone call, it is not built one grammar rule at a time. It is built from meaning, from rhythm, from familiar phrases, from confidence, and most importantly, from being willing to speak even when you are not 100% sure. I have taught a lot of adult English learners, and I have seen this pattern so many times it is almost predictable. The people who study grammar the hardest are often the same people who feel the most blocked when they speak. Not because grammar is bad. Grammar is not the enemy. It is because memorizing rules can teach you to doubt yourself. It can teach you to pause, to hesitate, to search for perfection before you say anything. And in real life, fluency is not perfection. Fluency is flow. So in this episode, I want to help you learn English more naturally, without living inside grammar rules, without feeling like you have to build every sentence from scratch. I want you to feel what it is like to speak from instinct, from familiarity, from real English that lives in your body, not just in your notes. And listen, if you have spent years studying grammar, I get it, I really do. It feels safe. Rules feel solid. Rules feel like control. If I just learn this rule, then I will finally speak correctly. But the truth is, speaking is not a math problem. Speaking is more like driving. At first, you think about everything: mirrors, speed, signals, other cars. But eventually, you drive without thinking about every tiny step. You still follow the rules, but you are not reciting them in your head while you drive. You just drive. That is what natural English feels like. You are not thinking, now I will use the present continuous. You are thinking, what am I trying to say? What do I mean? And your English follows. Now, before we go deeper, let me say something that might make you exhale a little. You are allowed to speak English without being perfect. You are allowed to speak English while you are still learning. You are allowed to sound like a real person, not like a textbook. And you are definitely allowed to make mistakes and still be intelligent, still be professional, still be respected. Most native speakers make mistakes all the time. We just do it confidently, and we keep going. Okay, quick pause, just a casual one. If you have been enjoying this kind of calm, natural English practice, go ahead and subscribe so you can keep building this habit. You can like the video too, it helps more learners find it. And if you want, tell me in the comments what blocks you more, grammar confusion or fear of mistakes. I read those, and it also helps me make episodes that actually match what you need. Now let us talk about what it really means to learn English naturally. When people hear naturally, they sometimes imagine magic, like you just watch movies and one day you wake up fluent. That is not what I mean. Natural learning is not lazy learning. Natural learning is learning the way your brain actually likes to learn language. through repetition, through patterns, through context, through emotion, through real situations. Think about how you learned your first language. You did not start with grammar rules. Nobody explained verb tenses to you at age 2. You learned through hearing the same kinds of sentences again and again. You learned from routines, from questions people asked you every day, from stories, from being corrected gently, sometimes without even noticing. And most importantly, you learned because you had a reason to communicate. You wanted something. You wanted to connect. Adults learn differently in some ways because you already have a language in your head. You already have habits. You already have a strong inner critic. But the core learning mechanism is still the same. Your brain learns language through exposure and use, not through memorizing charts. Here is something I tell my students all the time. Grammar is not where fluency comes from. Grammar is where editing comes from. Grammar helps you check your English later. Grammar helps you improve over time. But grammar is too slow for real conversation. Real conversation happens in real time. You cannot stop and say, "Excuse me, I need 10 seconds to decide if I should use who or whom." Nobody talks like that. Even in professional settings, people speak in a natural, imperfect way. They pause. They restart. They simplify. They change direction. They use basic verbs. They use short phrases that are familiar. So if you want to speak naturally, you need to build something different from a grammar collection. You need to build a phrase collection. You need to build instincts. You need to build comfort with being slightly imperfect while still being clear. Let me give you a very real example. Imagine you are in a meeting and your manager says, "What do you think about this plan?" And you have an opinion, you have good ideas, but your brain starts doing grammar first. You start thinking, I want to say, "I think it is a good idea, but I have some concerns." Okay, concerns. Do I say I am concerned or I have concerns? Should I say about or with? Should I say, on the other hand, should I use however? And then you say nothing. Or you say something very short and safe, like, "It is good. This is not a knowledge problem." You know enough English to express an opinion. This is a speed problem and a confidence problem. And the solution is not more rules. The solution is more ready language. Language you can grab quickly without thinking. Instead of building sentences from scratch, native speakers rely on chunks. We use small groups of words that come together naturally. For example, "I see what you mean. That makes sense. I am not sure about that." From my perspective. The main issue is, "I agree up to a point. Can you clarify that?" Let me think for a second. The reason I bring this up is we should keep in mind that these are not grammar rules. These are tools. And the more tools you have, the less you panic. Because you are not trying to invent English in real time. You are pulling from familiar patterns. This is why memorizing grammar rules often does not help speaking. It gives you knowledge about the language, but it does not give you language for life. You can know every tense and still freeze when someone asks you a simple question like, "How was your weekend?" Because the pressure is not about grammar. The pressure is about speed, comfort, and fear of judgment. So let us talk about the fear part for a second, because this is huge for adult learners. Many adults have a deep fear of sounding stupid. And I get it. In your native language, you are sharp. You can be funny. You can be persuasive. You can be professional. In English, you might feel reduced, like your personality gets smaller, like you become more basic. That is painful, and it makes you want to protect yourself by staying quiet or by trying to be perfect. But perfection is a trap. Perfection creates hesitation, and hesitation creates more fear, and fear creates more hesitation. It is a loop. Confidence breaks the loop. And confidence does not come from never making mistakes. Confidence comes from surviving mistakes. It comes from having a few awkward moments and realizing, oh, I am still okay. People still understood me. I can keep going. I have students who apologize constantly. They say, sorry for my English. Sorry, my grammar is bad. Sorry, I cannot explain. And I always want to tell them, stop apologizing for communicating. You are doing something brave. You are using a second language in real life. That is not something to be ashamed of. And here is the funny thing. When you apologize too much, it actually makes you sound less confident, even if your English is pretty good. People start focusing on your insecurity instead of your message. So a simple shift can change everything. Instead of saying, sorry, my English is bad, you can say, let me say that another way. Or, give me a second, I want to explain it clearly. Or even, I might not be using the perfect word, but here is what I mean. That sounds like a competent adult who is managing communication, because that is what you are. Now, if you want to learn naturally, you have to change what you practice. Most people practice English in a way that does not match real life. They do exercises, they fill in blanks, they memorize rules, they read about English. But they do not spend enough time hearing and repeating the kinds of sentences they actually want to say. So, I want you to think about your real life. What situations do you live in English? Maybe it is work emails. Maybe it is small talk with coworkers. Maybe it is travel. Maybe it is phone calls. Maybe it is customer conversations. Maybe it is online meetings. Those situations have repeated language. The same kinds of phrases come up again and again. If you work in an office, you probably need phrases like, just a heads up. Do you have a minute? I will get back to you. I am working on it. We are on track. We are running behind. Can we push this to tomorrow? What is the priority here? Let us circle back. If you travel, you need phrases like, I am looking for. How do I get to? Is this seat taken? Could I get the check? I would like. Do you take card? If you are a parent, you might need phrases like, put your shoes on. We are late. Be careful. What happened? Do you need help? This is natural English. It is not fancy. It is not grammar heavy. It is functional, emotional, repeated. And repeated language becomes automatic. One of the biggest breakthroughs I see in students is when they stop trying to speak in complex sentences and start speaking in clear, simple ones with natural rhythm. They realize they do not need to impress anyone. They need to connect. And by the way, simple does not mean childish. Simple means direct. Simple means confident. Simple is what professionals use all the time. In a meeting, the person who speaks most clearly often sounds the most competent, even if their grammar is not perfect. Now let us talk about thinking in English, because this is where memorizing rules really makes things harder. When you translate in your head, you usually translate meaning first, and then you start editing with grammar. And that editing stage is where you slow down and lose the conversation. So, how do you stop translating? You do it gradually. You do not force it with pressure. You build small English thoughts that you can use automatically. For example, Instead of translating a long sentence from your language, start with small reactions in English. Things like, really, no way, that is great, that is tough, I get it, that makes sense, I am not sure, let me think. These little reactions are powerful because they happen fast. They keep you inside English. They give you momentum. Then you build longer patterns. For example, I am the kind of person who, one thing I have noticed is, lately I have been. The main reason is, what I mean is, if I had to choose, I would. I am leaning toward. That is what I am worried about. I am excited about. These patterns let you express real thoughts without building everything from zero. And here is a key point. Natural English is full of these patterns. Native speakers are not inventing grammar every time we talk. We are using familiar frames. You can do the same. Let me share something I have watched happen many times. A learner studies grammar and vocabulary for years. They know so much, but their speaking still feels tight. Then they start listening to English every day, not passively, but actively. They start repeating phrases out loud. They start copying the way native speakers connect ideas. They start saying short, natural sentences in the shower, in the car, while cooking. At first it feels silly, but after a few weeks, something changes. The mouth gets used to the movements. The brain gets used to the rhythm. They start speaking without planning every word. That is natural learning. It is physical. Speaking is a physical skill. It is not just mental. And you do not have to repeat complicated movie lines. Honestly, the best phrases to repeat are the boring, everyday ones, because those are the ones you need the most. Things like, what have you been up to? How is it going? I will be right back. I am not sure yet. It depends. That is a good point. I do not have time today. Can we talk later? I totally forgot. I did not realize. Thanks for letting me know. When those phrases become automatic, your brain relaxes. And when your brain relaxes, you get access to more of your English. Now, I want to address a common misunderstanding. Some learners think, if I stop studying grammar, my English will get worse. But that is not what I am saying. I am saying, stop memorizing grammar as your main strategy for fluency. Grammar can be a support, like a map. But you do not learn to swim by memorizing diagrams of swimming. You learn by getting in the water. So use grammar in a light way. Use it when you notice a pattern and you want to understand it. Use it when you want to clean up a mistake that keeps happening. Use it when you are writing something important and you want to check it. But do not try to carry grammar rules in your head while you speak. That is like carrying a heavy backpack while trying to run. Instead, focus on input and output that match real life. Input means listening and reading. Output means speaking and writing. Natural learning needs both. If you only listen, you might understand a lot, but still struggle to speak. If you only speak without listening, you might repeat the same mistakes because you are not feeding your brain new patterns. You need both, but the key is the quality. For listening, choose English that feels close to your life. Not too hard, not too easy. Something you can understand mostly, but that still stretches you a little. And listen repeatedly. Repetition is not boring. Repetition is how your brain builds automatic language. For speaking, do not wait until you feel ready. If you wait, you will wait forever. Instead, speak in small doses, every day. Talk to yourself. Narrate your day in English. Explain what you are doing. Say, I am making coffee. I am running late. I need to send this email. I am not in the mood today. I am going to the store. This builds thinking in English. And when you talk to real people, give yourself permission to be simple. You do not need to tell the full story with perfect details. You can start with a short version. If they want more, they will ask. Here is another example I see a lot. Someone wants to tell a story, maybe at work, maybe with friends, and they want to make it perfect. They want the humor to land. They want the timeline to be clear. They want the vocabulary to be impressive. So they get stuck. Try this instead. Focus on 3 things: who, what happened, how you felt. That is it. For example, last weekend I met some friends. We went downtown, and honestly, it was exhausting, but it was fun. That is natural. That is real English. And if you want to add more, you can, but you do not have to. Another reason learners get addicted to grammar is because grammar gives you a clear task. Memorize this. Do this exercise. Get a score. Speaking is messy. Speaking is emotional. Speaking is unpredictable. You do not get a clean result. You just get a moment. And that can feel uncomfortable. So let us make speaking practice feel safer. One way is to practice what I call recovery phrases. These are phrases that help you when you get stuck. And yes, I know I said no lists, so I am not going to give you a long list, but I do want to plan a few in your mind because they are life-changing. Simple ones like, how do you say, what is the word for? Let me rephrase that. What I mean is, give me a second, I forgot the word, but it is like, when you have these, you stop panicking. You stay in the conversation. You buy yourself time. That is what fluent speakers do. Even native speakers do it. Now let us talk about mistakes, because this is where the real freedom is. Most mistakes do not matter. They feel huge to you, but they do not stop communication. If you say, he go to work yesterday, people understand. If you say, I have 32 years, people understand. If you say, I am agree, people understand. Are these perfect? No. Do they destroy the conversation? Not at all. The goal is to be understood and then gradually become more natural over time. Fluency first, accuracy later. Not because accuracy is unimportant, but because accuracy grows best on top of a strong foundation of confidence and speaking habit. And if you are thinking, but I do not want to build bad habits, I understand. Here is the balance. Keep your speaking flowing, but after the conversation, reflect. Notice 1 or 2 things you want to improve, not 20, 1 or 2. That is how you grow without freezing. Let me share a moment from teaching that I have never forgotten. I had a student who was very intelligent, very successful, and her English was actually strong. But every time she spoke, her voice got quieter. She would look down. She would self-correct in the middle of sentences. And one day I asked her, "What are you afraid will happen if you make a mistake?" And she said, "People will think I am not smart." That hit me, because that is the real fear for many adults. Not just sounding incorrect, but losing status, losing respect. So we worked on a different goal, not perfect grammar. The goal was to sound calm, to sound steady, to finish sentences, to not apologize, to keep eye contact, to take a breath and speak a little slower. And within a few weeks, people at her job started responding differently to her. They listened more. They asked her more questions. Not because her grammar suddenly became perfect, but because her presence changed. She sounded like herself again. This is what I mean when I say confidence matters more than perfection. People trust confidence. They connect with calm. Now you might be wondering, if I am not memorizing grammar rules, what should I do instead, like practically, day to day? Here is the simplest way to think about it. You want to collect real English, not rules about English. You want to collect phrases, responses, and patterns that show up everywhere. When you listen to English, pay attention to how people actually say things. Notice the small, common choices. Native speakers often say, "I am not sure," instead of, "I do not know." We say, "That is not really my thing," instead of, "I do not like it." We say, "I will figure it out," instead of, "I will find a solution." We say, "It is up to you," instead of, "You decide." These choices are not more correct, they are more natural. And when you learn a new phrase, do not just understand it, use it, say it out loud, put it into your own life. If you learn, "I will get back to you," use it the next day. If you learn, "I am leaning toward," use it when you make a decision. If you learn, "To be honest," use it when you share an opinion. This is how English becomes yours. Also, let yourself be a little repetitive when you speak. Learners often think they need a lot of variety, but in real life, native speakers repeat the same phrases constantly. We have our favorite expressions. We use them again and again. Repetition is natural. Repetition is fluent. Another powerful shift is to stop trying to speak like writing. Many learners speak in a formal way because they learned English through school, through textbooks, through writing, so their spoken English sounds heavy. They might say, "I would like to inform you that I cannot attend the meeting." A native speaker might just say, "Hey, I cannot make the meeting today. Sorry about that." Both are fine, but one is lighter and easier to say. Natural English is usually shorter, more direct, more relaxed, and you can still be polite and professional without being stiff. Now let us talk about one more block that is very common: the fear of silence. Many learners think that if they pause, it means they are failing. So they rush, they panic, and then the sentence collapses. But pauses are normal. Pauses are part of natural speech. Native speakers pause all the time. We say, let me think. We say, that is a good question. We take a breath. We restart. A calm pause is not a problem. A calm pause actually makes you sound thoughtful. So give yourself permission to pause. In fact, you can use a pause as a tool. If someone asks you a question, you can say, let me think for a second. And then you think. That is natural. That is human. That is what fluent people do. And here is something else. If you want to sound more natural without memorizing grammar, focus on stress and rhythm. I am not going to turn this into a pronunciation lesson, but I want you to notice something. English is a language where some words get more energy than others. The important words stand out. The smaller words are quicker. When learners speak, sometimes they give every word the same energy, and it sounds a little unnatural, even if the grammar is correct. When you listen a lot, and when you imitate, your rhythm starts to change automatically. That is another reason listening is so important. So, if your plan is, I will memorize grammar and then I will speak, I want you to flip it. Speak now, simply. Listen a lot. Repeat what you hear. And use grammar lightly as support. You might still be thinking, okay, Tom, but I need grammar for my job or exams. Totally fair. If you need grammar for writing or tests, study it. But do not confuse test English with real English. They are related, but not the same. If your main goal is speaking, your main practice should be speaking and listening, not rule memorization. Let me paint a picture. Imagine you are at a dinner with colleagues, maybe some people from different countries, and the conversation is moving fast. Someone tells a story, people react, someone asks you a question. In that moment, nobody cares if you used the perfect article. They care if you are present, if you are engaged, if you respond, if you share something real. That is where natural English lives, in real moments. So here is the mindset I want you to carry with you. Your English does not need to be perfect to be powerful. Clear English is powerful. Calm English is powerful. Consistent English is powerful. And you build that by using English every day, not by waiting until you feel ready. If you want, here is a simple practice you can do starting today. When you learn one new phrase that feels useful, do not write a grammar rule about it. Instead, say it 5 times out loud in a natural way, like you are actually talking to someone. Then use it in a sentence about your life. Then listen for it again in the wild, in videos or podcasts or meetings. When you notice it again, it becomes real. It becomes familiar. That is natural learning. And if you are stuck in the habit of translating, choose one part of your day where you stay in English. Maybe it is your morning routine. Maybe it is when you commute. Maybe it is while you cook. You do not need to think deep thoughts, just simple, honest thoughts in English. I do not want to get up. I need coffee. Today is going to be busy. I have a lot to do. I hope the meeting goes well. That is thinking in English. That is how you build the path. Over time, you will notice something. The gap between what you want to say and what you can say will get smaller. Not because you memorized more rules, but because you have more familiar language ready. Your mouth will move with less effort. Your brain will stop panicking, and your personality will start coming through again. And when you make mistakes, you will recover faster. You will laugh sometimes. You will correct yourself sometimes. You will keep going. That is fluency. So, if you have been carrying grammar books like a safety blanket, you do not have to throw them away. Just loosen your grip. Let grammar be a tool, not a cage. Let English be something you use, not something you prove. The final thing I want to say is this. The goal is not to sound like a native speaker. The goal is to sound like you, in English, clear, confident, natural you. The person who can share ideas, build relationships, do good work, travel, handle problems, and enjoy conversations without constant fear. You can get there, and you do not get there by memorizing grammar rules harder. You get there by living in English a little more every day, by collecting real phrases, by listening deeply, by speaking before you feel ready, and by trusting that communication is more important than perfection. Keep going. Keep it simple. Keep it human. And next time you feel that freeze, that moment when your brain wants to search for the rule, try something different. Focus on meaning. Say it simply. Use what you know. And let the conversation carry you forward. That is where natural English begins.